So now the clock is 11 a.m., 11 o'clock Swedish Danish time. And today we have a very interesting introduction to BoMill. BoMill is a grain company. And with me today, I have the CEO of the company, Andreas Jeppsson. Welcome to you. And I would like to welcome the participants as well. Just some practical issues. First of all, Andreas is the CEO of the company. He's going to introduce the company. If you have any detailed questions regarding the upcoming share issue, please send me or Andreas a mail. The CFO is not with us today. And for the audience, please post your questions in the chat on your right side below. With that said, I would like to hand over the word to Andreas. Welcome, Andreas.
Thank you very much, Klaus. So, see here. No. So I'm the CEO of BoMill. My name is Andreas Jeppsson. I joined BoMill here in September 2000. So I've been here for a year and a half. Before joining BoMill, I was working for Ecolin. It's a Swedish supplier of packaging solutions for liquid food, where I, in various roles, was selling the solutions to the market, and also building up organizations around the world for BoMill, or for Ecolin. And I've been also located for a couple of years, 3 years in China. And I was 4 years located and building up the markets in Americas. I've also spent quite a lot of time in the Russian and Eastern European markets, and also building up the organization in Pakistan when that was established there. So very much focusing on business development and building organizations in this kind of environment, in an industrial environment. Talking about BoMill, starting with actually the increasing needs and the limited resources we have available. So on Earth, we will be approximately 10 billion people by 2050. With that said, the food supply will be increased by approximately 60%, but still with a limited arable land available. So basically all the land that we can use for agricultural use is already used. But still we need to increase the food supply. So that will create a big demand of industry. We have big volumes of global grain production that is lost every year. And we also have more restrictive regulations coming up and already in place in many areas. And we also have an increasing demand from consumers when it comes to more healthy and less products with less additives, and also making sure that you only have a product that you're paying for. So grain is a gift. So why waste a single kernel of it? So if you're looking out on a field, you can see that it looks very homogeneous. It looks all the same. But when you start analyzing each individual kernel, you will find out that there's quite a big differences between each and every kernel. And with that said, you will also lead to that you have a quality variation within a batch or within a load of grain. There is a big variation. And grain that is produced today can be either wasted, or it is misused, and more production is needed to compensate for the wasted grains and the misused. So there is a huge potential to improve the quality and to optimize the value at the same time as you're reducing the waste and the losses. With that said, we could, with an innovative approach, what if we could sort the grains differently? And you could look at the inside of a composition of each and every kernel. And with that, you could actually use every kernel for what it is best suited for. It will reduce the losses, and it will increase the value of every batch of grain. You will secure the quality, and you will ensure the food safety and optimize the process. So the process means either optimizing the grain, cleaning the grain, or if you need to modify it or you need to process it in one way or the other, or if it's the process in the food by the food producers. And that the better and the more homogeneous and optimized quality you have into your food productions, you will also improve the quality. So a more homogeneous raw material will improve the quality in the end of the food product, which will lead to a more sustainable and healthy consumer product. A good example of this is here, because today in the industry, and that has been going on for 50, 60, up to 100 years, you have cleaned and you have sorted grains in different ways. And that has been done in a mechanical way, or it has been done by using what we call an optical sorter or vision sorter. So you're basically looking at the outside, you're looking at the size, so you're looking at the outside in terms of the color differences or differences in other type of variations that you can see on the outside of the kernels. That has been done up till now. And typically an example of how a batch of material that is sorted in such traditional ways we have been sent to us, and we get those samples quite frequently. And how it looks like is that when it's analyzed by the customer, it comes to us and we can see that 90% will be discarded, or basically it's burned. It cannot be used for anything. And only 10% could be used as what is called in the industry feed grade. And that basically means that it is feed for animals. So only 10% of typically of such an example or batch will work like that. When we have sorted it kernel by kernel, we can actually see that 80% is actually meeting the standards for food. And 12% will be meeting the standards for feed or for animal food. And only 8% will be discarded, which means that we are not only supporting sustainability goals here, we are also optimizing the use of our common resources. This is an excellent way to provide customers with a way to actually make it more profitable or good return of investment by adding more value to their batch of grains.
Yeah, and just a small question here, Andreas, because
Yeah, sure.
I find this slide extremely interesting in your value proposition. So before your technology, you were traditionally discarded 90% of whatever quantity of grain you had, and with your technology, you are able to decrease that to 8%, shown on the slide here. Mm-hmm. And as you also mentioned on the slide, you actually burn this this grain, so you use energy to discard something that you can actually use for other purposes, if I understand you right. So well, this is, when you see this slide, is an opener, and I know the world is not working like that, because as you will explain later, you also have, of course, to get the clients on board. But this is a very good slide. Is it actually like that today?
This is, of course, dependent on the quality of the harvest, and it could change from region to region and from harvest to harvest. And also how you are using, I mean, it said here discarded or burned. So in some areas, it will be maybe used for energy, or it will simply be burned. So it varies from region to region, as I said.
And that's purely due to your technology, where you're able to see inside the kernel.
Absolutely. And I mean, you are actually, this is not something new, that you can actually look at the inside structure of each and every kernel. That is done already today, but that is only done in a laboratory scale. Then you're taking a couple of kilos from your batch, analyzing it, and then based upon these samples of the results of this test, you're actually making the conclusion that if you have enough of samples, you're drawing the conclusion that the whole batch looks the same. We all know that's not the case.
No.
So here in this case, we can say that we're actually doing laboratory analysis of the whole batch with our technology. So that is the big difference.
Yes. Yes, please carry on.
Looking at the market and the trends that we see in the market, approximately we are approaching the two main grains, and that's wheat and barley, and they approximately stand for more than 40% of the market share of the grain production every year. And out of this, in European Union and North America, that means approximately 293 million tons. So it's a huge market. We are adding benefits for the entire grain value chain. So that means that everything from the farmer to the grain handler to the processors of the grain and all the way to the food producers, they will have benefits in different ways using our technology. So very often it can be that when we are promoting our technology, it's not necessarily that we are promoting it to our customer. It could very much be to the customer, because it's them that will have the biggest benefit of it. And then they will kind of approach their supplier and say, you need to have this technology because then we will be able to improve the quality of the material or raw materials that we are receiving from you. Looking at the trends, I mean, we have a climate change that is increasing crop quality variations. We have more and more variations, and we can expect more and more variations in the future of the grains. We can also see, especially now during the last couple of years, and especially in these times with the war in Ukraine, that we also have a volatility of the grain prices. And in general, we have big challenges in the grain supply chain globally. And this we have not seen the result of yet. That will happen later in the year. So how bad or how challenging this is, that is to be determined. That's what we'll see in the future. But we can also see that we can make a difference here by the fact that we are using all the grains that is produced more efficiently. So that is where we will add value and can help and support the global food supply. Looking at the company, we have our head office in Malmö in Sweden, and we have also a market office in Germany where we have one salesperson. We are an international team with a very extensive experience combined with from the grain industry, but also from working with industry in different areas. We have a good network of distributors that also has a good experience from this business and this from the grain industry. And we have installations in Europe and North America. Currently, we have 40 installations spread all over Europe and US and Canada. Looking at our technology and the patents that we have in place. So basically, what makes our technology unique is the fact that we are analyzing and sorting, as I said before, not only analyzing and sorting and looking through every kernel, but we are doing it at an industrial speed and looking at analyzing its internal properties, not only looking at the outside as the traditional technologies are doing. Of course, we have developed over the years, we have developed a unique technology which needs to be protected by different patents. And here we have been very strong, and we are doing a good job in this. We have an active and structured patent strategy. So currently we have 42 registered patents in 5 different families.
Yes.
Looking at our business model, so what we are doing, we are working with business-to-business sales of equipment and services. A part of it is also an aftermarket where we are providing services of equipment and also sorting services, supplying spare parts to the equipment, and also the maintenance of it. So we're promoting and selling through both our own sales organization and also with support from the regional distributors. And with that said, we are also, of course, our sales organization and our organization here is also supporting the regional distributors. We are working in close collaboration. We have a well-defined business plan in place that is helping us, that is setting the priorities and making sure that we have a way to move forward. This is especially in a company like ours where you have so many opportunities and we could basically add value all over the world, but it's very important that, just as important that it is as we have a to-do list or we are saying what we are going to do, it's the same thing also saying what we are not going to do, because it's very easy when you have so many opportunities that you lose focus and you start to do too many things. So yes, it's important to have a business plan defining a way forward, but it's also telling you what you're not going to do, at least
Yes,
not at the moment. We have a very clear and distinguished sales process in place. And that's also very important because the part of the sales process is actually very much about listening to the customer and understand the needs of the customers, of the problems that the customer is experiencing. And in a very open and transparent way, discuss with the customer if there is a case and if these problems that the customer is experiencing will actually be solved using the BoMill technology. Normally, in an industrial sale like this, it has a time from its first contact to purchase order. It varies between 6 to 18 months. That's a normal time for the sales process.
Well, there's a question popping up here, but I actually have 2 questions. The first question is from the audience. There's a question here. Who are your competitors? Because you have a unique technology, but you are probably in a very conservative business. So it's also a matter of course, convince the clients to see what they gain from your product. But I could imagine you have some kind of competitors out there, Andreas. Could you address that? And the second question is, if I may, you mentioned this about aftermarket. Could you very briefly elaborate how much? I know it's early days, but your solution, does it demand a lot of aftermarket adjusting, servicing different parts and stuff like that? And is it carried out by the distributors?
So the first question was about
competitors.
The competition.
Yes.
So you're right. We don't have any direct competitors because we have a unique technology and we are the only one that can do what we are doing. With that said, the market and the industry is already now, they are doing sorting of grains. So then the nearest or the closest competition that we have is the optical sorters. So the ones that is looking at the outside. So it's basically it's a camera that is taking a picture and based upon what they are seeing, they are sorting it out. So that is a competition, but they are doing it differently, and they cannot do the things that we can do.
No, and these competitors are they big companies? So the wholesalers, or or what space are we in?
Yeah, there are both very big companies in this supplying optical sorters of vision equipment, but there are also smaller local ones. So it varies.
Okay.
But you can say that the market is 50% of the market is you have 3 or 4 players, and then the remaining is spread on more regional players, if I put it like that. When it comes to optical sorters, but still, we are not considering them so much as a competitor. That's important to
Understand.
to push for that, because it's more like a complement. And then when it comes to aftermarket, what we are doing, it's consulting services when it comes to how can the technology be used. And it's also about selling spare parts to the equipment. And in some cases also some kind of a maintenance program. It could also be upgrades of software, for example. That could also be a typical aftermarket service that we will provide in the future.
Thanks a lot.
So I said before that we have a business plan in place and define what we are going to do, and also saying that there is a lot of opportunities that we have decided to not approach at the moment. So we have basically identified 2 target markets, and that is first is the barley supply chain for the brewery industry. A lot of the barley that is produced is either for malt barley that is used in the brewery industry, or it is feed barley that is used for animal feed. And we are approaching the supply chain for the brewery industry. But also we have commercial seeds cleaning. So that is services that are provided by very often the grain handlers, or could also be different, it could be companies doing mobile cleaning that is coming to the farmers and cleaning the seeds for the farmers. This is a typical area where we also are approaching. Currently, we have, if you go to our website, you can see that we have two products available. One is the IQ, and that's a laboratory sorter with a 2 kilo per hour equipment. And we have a TriQ that is for commercial scale sorting with a capacity up to 3 tons per hour. And 3 tons per hour actually equals 25,000 kernels per second. So it's pretty impressive what the technology can do. But 3 tons per hour, that is actually a limitation in the grain industry. It's not so much. It's considered as mid to low capacity. So in order to meet the demands, you need to put a lot of machines next to each other and put them in cluster, which some of our customers already has done. We have, for example, a customer in the US that has 10 machines installed next to each other in a cluster. But still, we have faced a demand from the market and from the industry that they would like to have a higher capacity. So that has been addressed, and we have also, so with that said, we have developed a new machine. It's a modular high capacity machine that will have a capacity of up to 15 tons per hour. And we will launch it here in the end of this quarter, so in end of June. We will send it on a field test to one of our customers.
Yeah, and there's a question popping in here about your product offering. It's from Jens again. So what decrease in cost per kernel did you see when from your lab model to your TriQ? Can you elaborate a little on that, Andreas?
I didn't follow the question.
So the first machine you launched, the lab equipment, you have, of course.
We actually launched the lab equipment after the TriQ.
Okay, but you probably experienced a lower cost per kernel for the client on the bigger machine.
Yeah, and the reason why the IQ or the lab equipment was released, that was only for laboratory or laboratory scale testing.
Okay.
So
Okay.
it was never intended for do a bigger commercial sorting.
No. Okay.
No. So it's
So-
only to do some. It was a simple way to do tests and analyze results without doing it in the bigger machine, in the TriQ machine. The startup for doing such a test will be much more efficient. So that's the reason why the IQ was developed and released on the market.
Yeah. And can you elaborate a little about the economics on the TriQ machine for the client? For one thing is obvious that if you can bring down the waste of grain, that's the first parameter. But of course they have to pay something for the machine as well.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, and you can say what's actually even more interesting is the machine that we are about to launch. But just to give you an idea, the price range for a TriQ machine is approximately 300,000 euros.
Yes.
Yeah. But for the new machine, it will be significantly less when you compare it to the capacity it can deliver.
Okay, interesting.
We have been able to do that. So just saying a few words about the new machine. We're saying it's a modular high capacity equipment. And the reason we're saying it's modular is because it has a scalable capacity ranging from 2 tons up to 15 tons. So it consists of 8 different modules. So dependent on your needs, you can equip the machine with the amount of modules your actual needs are, what you need to sort, the capacity you require. And then if your needs is increasing in the future, you could insert new modules up to 8 modules. So for example, if you only need 1 module to start with, 2 tons, and then you can see that the need is increasing, you can equip it with up to 8 modules in the future, and then you will have a capacity of up to 15 tons. So the machine will all be equipped, will all have the same frame, and it will simply have cassettes basically where you're inserting into the frame. And
your distributors are able to install those cassettes if the client wants. Okay, yeah.
Yes, they are. And also not all, but many of our distributors, they are also able to do some simple service and troubleshooting of equipment. So with that said, it has few moving parts. I would say it's a very smart and simple mechanical design. This is also a little bit different compared to the TriQ, because in the TriQ you have a cylinder or a drum that is rotating. This will not be the case here. We are using the gravity. So you can say that the grains is coming like in a waterfall. So that requires much less moving parts. And also it's easy to operate. You will have a touch panel where the operator is basically inserting the data required in order to operate the machine. With these few moving parts, it also gives a very efficient installation. And it has a possibility with a connection to the internet with a remote access for technical support. We are assembling and we're doing the final testing of equipment in-house in the BoMill premises. And looking at the TCO, or the total cost of ownership, investment versus the capacity will be much lower compared to the TriQ. Price is not set yet, so we will have to get back to you around that. But it will definitely be less than the TriQ considering the capacity. We have a reduced utility consumption. So when it comes to compressed air, for example, and energy in terms of electricity and so on, it will also be reduced compared to previous generations. And we have a lower maintenance cost with few wear parts. That will also make the calculations for the customer very attractive. And
what about when it comes to installation? So when the machine is installed, in place at the client's facility. What kind of education does the client need to serve the machine? Is that extensive, or is it very easy to start?
It's easy to start. I would say it's 1 to 2 day training.
Wow.
So it's basically you go through the whole equipment in less than a day's time, and then you support the customer with supervising the production for another day, and then the customer is up and running, basically.
Wow, that's very, very efficient.
So it's efficient and it's nothing strange at all. We are in the process currently with a rights issue. So we are with a full subscription to the rights issue. We will receive approximately Swedish money, 23.3 million, before the issue costs, and preferential right to subscribe for shares based on the existing shareholding, of course. So shareholders will receive 2 subscription rights for each share held on the record date, and 1 subscription right entitles to subscribe to 1 new share. And the price of a subscription is 75 öre, or 0.75 per new issued share. And the period for subscription is from April 28th to the May 12th. Important here to keep in mind is that the last day for trading is May 9. And for some banks, it will require that you even trade earlier than that because they have some period of time. So it's a little bit of a time constraint here for ones that are interested. And we are listed on the Nasdaq First North in Stockholm under the ticker BoMill.
Yes.
That said, that was my introduction of BoMill as a brief.
Well, very interesting. The new golden standard in the grain industry. There was one question here from Jens again about the after sale. We addressed that a little, and I also mentioned here in the chat that you addressed it earlier on. But do you have any after sale or service agreements in place with customers? Normally, the after sale is very lucrative business for an industrial company. So at the end,
it's something currently it's limited. It gives us a very limited revenue at this point in time, but it's something that we are working on developing in the future, especially now with the new equipment coming. So it will be part of our revenue stream as we see it in the future.
Yeah, with the new modular system.
Yeah, the new modular high capacity equipment. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good, Andreas. Thanks a lot. And I don't think we have further questions. So with that said, I would like to, first of all, thanks for your presentation, Andreas. It was really a good introduction to your company. And I would like to thank the audience also for those questions they posted. And with that said, I look forward to host you again and hear more about the company. And then to everyone participating, have a very nice day. Thank you, Andreas. And thank you.
Thank you all.